this is Dan Farisi, Editor-in-Chief with Commercial Integrator, welcoming you to AV Plus, the podcast for the commercial AV integration industry. I'm really excited to be continuing our series of 40 Influencers Under 40 podcasts featuring members of the class of 2022. This week, we're joined by Caitlin Kazanowski, who is Director of Sales with PTG, Corey Allen, who is Director of Services with Exertis Almo, Monique Rezai, who is Director of Americas Channels, Teams Rooms with Microsoft, and Britton Gates, who is Associate Partner and Audiovisual Consultant with Newcomb and Boyd. As always with this series, we'll be asking them about their perspectives, their insights, and also a little bit about their background and their professional history and trajectory. Thank you for joining us on AV Plus. I hope you enjoy the podcast.
As always, please like and subscribe to our YouTube page, and please subscribe to the AV Plus podcast on Apple and on Spotify.
I'm really happy to be joined today by four more of our 40 Influencers Under 40 class of 2022. Caitlin, Corey, Monique, Britton, thank you for being here. I'm really excited to get into another conversation with some of our industry's leading young superstars.
Thanks for having us, Dan.
Thank you.
So let's get right into it with a little bit about your biographies, your backgrounds. And why don't we start with you, Caitlin? I know you are a Director of Sales with PTG. Tell me a little bit about your career trajectory. What has brought you to this point where your peers and colleagues in the industry are honoring you? And what continues to ignite your passion and get you going as a member of the commercial AV industry? What continues to inspire and drive you?
Yeah, absolutely. So PTG is a family-owned business. My mom, Lynn Matson, actually started it about 36 years ago. And I was always convinced I would never run or join the family business until about 9 years ago when she persuaded me to hop into our customer service department. So I started in customer service, really loved that, kind of dug in, moved into account management about probably a year later after that. And that was when I was hooked. I love our clients. I love what we do. I think more so than just the technology, I think the ability to provide experiences through audio and video technology is what keeps me going every single day. And over the course of the past 9 years, I think the technology has obviously changed and that keeps things exciting every single day. So probably about 3 years ago now, I moved into the Director of Sales position. And that's just been a whole new set of challenges that again, every single day is something exciting and something to kind of work through and figure out. And I think seeing the end result of our customers ending up with these beautiful integrated experiences and having my team grow and develop through the implementation and execution of those experiences has just been the most rewarding part of being at PTG. So 9 years in, and there's certainly never a dull moment, especially in the age of supply chain shortages and pricing increases and the demand to continue to kind of engage people through the use of technology in retail and restaurant. And so there's nothing to not like about what we do. And I've just loved every minute of it.
Absolutely. And it's nice to see you kind of charting a course, progressing and rising through the organization, but still having that through line of being able to engage with the people. Obviously, you're a very people-focused person and thinking from the client's perspective, making sure they're getting the experiences that they're entrusting your company to effectuate. That seems to be kind of the through line, and that seems to be one of the things you enjoy most.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Any chance that we can, have a problem brought to us or have an idea brought to us and then have the ability to design a solution around that. I mean, that's just the most fun. Selling TVs and selling speakers is one thing, but actually being able to use those devices to create an engaging experience for a consumer that might not even realize that technology is there because it's just in the background influencing them, I think is just the coolest thing.
Yeah, very well said. Well, thank you, Caitlin, for that background. Let's now move on to you, Britton. Why don't you share a little bit about what has brought you to where you are currently, which is Associate Partner and Audiovisual Consultant with Newcomb and Boyd, and why you continue to be passionate about the commercial AV industry and carving your place in it.
Sure. Well, I think I found my way into this industry because I love it. I was in high school around the time that the first Fast and Furious movies were coming out. And so all of my buddies were putting money into their cars and things like that. And I was building a home theater in my parents' basement. And so it was just always something that intrigued me and that I had a passion for. and also kind of came naturally. You know, I just really enjoyed putting together systems. And so I started in the industry like a lot of us, pulling cable and mounting TVs, and then I made my way into field engineering and some control systems programming, and developing proposals, and really working with integrators. I gravitated more towards working in the consulting side and helping. I really found a passion for helping end users build better systems and solve problems and figure out what that works best for their workflows. And as Caitlin said, introducing things to them they may not have known existed. So I kind of did that consulting world for design build partners for a while. And then for the last 6 years, I've been at Newcomb and Boyd and focusing a lot on higher ed and corporate developments.
Very, very cool. So as you've kind of explored some of these different areas and different aspects of commercial AV and technology trade generally, have you found that your passions for different things ebb and flow? You want to lean more into one sometimes, lean into another a different time, or how do you take that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my passion is just, it reignites every time we kind of get a new major project. I think that it's not so much a specific vertical. I mean, we've done, hospitality and courtrooms, and, we have a lot of different verticals, and each one I can be equally engaged in. But really it's when you kind of have that excitement of jumping into a new opportunity and meeting new people and working through new problems and working through new architecture. It really, that's where my passion is whenever we get to kind of jump into something new and another challenge that we get to meet. It's always fun for me.
Yeah, and there's kind of a through line with what Caitlin said about the idea of interacting with a client, understanding exactly what they need, exactly what they want, and then using your resources, your know-how, your team to kind of envisage a solution for them and see it move down the line. So very, very cool. Corey, I think you are the only one on this, quartet who I've actually met in person, I believe, at an E4, earlier this year. But congratulations to you as well on being on the 40 under 40 list. You are, of course, with Exertis Almo, Director of Services. Tell me a little bit about what brought you to that point and what continues to make you love being part of the commercial AV industry. And love it so much, in fact, that you obviously have been recognized by your peers and colleagues as a very, very high performer.
Yeah, so I think my background may differ from a lot of the folks that are on here. This was kind of in my DNA from an early age. I remember running through the warehouse of C2G, formerly Cables to Go, part of Legrand now. When I was about 5 years old, my mom had a very long career there of, I think, combined 23, 24 years. So I kind of grew up in that space. And when I was 17 years old, I was looking for a job and began working in the warehouse at C2G. And from there, started having some conversations with the old president and CEO, and decided to put me through a training program, and then kind of cast me into the customer service sales aspect of C2G when I was 19 years old, and kind of grown from there. So I spent roughly 9 years at C2G, then Legrand acquired the organization. I felt like that was a good time to kind of recast myself in the industry, look for additional opportunities, and landed at Exertis Almo, obviously formerly Almo, and have been here for about 8 years and have done a myriad of things over that period of time. So a unique experience, kind of a unique timeline for me in terms of my the inception of my career in AV. Specific to wire and cabling background has morphed into obviously a wealth of knowledge over the course of 16 years now. And really what kind of keeps me going is our ability as an organization and some of the capabilities and knowledge that I've ascertained over a period of time and really helping solve problems. That's the best part of my job, is that we're always providing solutions to problems for a myriad of customers, right? We have, I think, 10,000 customers in our database, and it's unique to be in a position to where you can solve problems for a lot of them. So that really kind of keeps me energized and engaged in what we do. And that passion hasn't burnt out at all. So I'm hoping it goes into a long tenured career, specifically with Exertis, and it's been a fun ride.
Absolutely. It also must be exciting, especially, from a problem solving point of view. And you think about integrators, for example, one of the problems that they have tends sometimes to be margins or the problem with CapEx versus OpEx. You as a service oriented person, I would think are solving a problem for integrators in some sense by giving them a path to more recurring monthly revenue, more options as opposed to just a CapEx model. Do you view things that way? Are you not only solving problems for customers necessarily, but also solving problems for integrators?
Yeah, that's exactly what we do. My job is centered around everything that isn't being shipped in a brown box. Some of those items that have lost margin potential over a period of time. We're of course creating and have created a services platform for integrators to use that will help shape additional margins that they can kind of flow into their business overall. I think the pandemic really kind of opened our eyes to being more conscious about spend and what kind of resources we have available to us. And I mean that both as a distributor and of course, speaking on behalf of the integrators that exist in our world. It's really important for us to have those services available so these companies continue to carve paths and grow. It exacerbated and accelerated a lot of things the pandemic did. But it certainly opened our eyes up to different ways of doing business as we move forward. So I have the unique ability to obviously be a part of this services group at Exertis Almo and run it. And a lot of learning lessons over the past few years have, of course, again, accelerated our capability as a whole, all to service our integrator partners. I mean, that's what we're here for. Exertis Almo exists because our customers exist.
Right. So last but certainly not least, I want to turn to you, Monique, as Director of America's Channels, Teams Rooms, Microsoft. I'd like to know, obviously, you're in a little bit of a different category than some of the more integration or integrator-focused participants on the 40 Under 40 list. Tell me what has brought you to the current place where you are and why you're inspired and engaged and want to continue to make the mark that you've already made.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Dan. I began my career in commercial AV when I joined Poly. It was Polycom at the time, in December of 2020. That's really where I discovered my love, not only for the industry, but for the channel as well. And to that point, I always had sales focused roles. So this was my first journey in the channel side of the business and really found my passion there. At Poly, I spent 10 years successfully building out the channel for our key top partners in North America, a lot of the typical AV integrators that we all work with today. Eventually, I had the opportunity to lead the national channel team that I was on and kind of help accelerate the growth for North America across the region. At my time at Poly, I was also recognized as a Women of the Channel for CRN, which was really exciting. And then in September of 2020, Microsoft reached out. So Microsoft was looking to build they developed a new incubation team focused on Teams Rooms for North America. And so it was a team of 5, and they hired 3 of us to run different regions across the globe and teams for us. So I kind of was hired in parallel with my team. Got very fortunate that I got a rock star team to lead, and have had a lot of fun doing that here in North America. It was an exciting opportunity to further expand my skill set, but also continue to work with all the commercial AV integrators and partners and colleagues that I've built relationships with over the years. I just recently picked up Latin America, which is really exciting. I have an MBA in international business, and so the bigger my region gets, the more excited I get to learn new cultures and new ways of doing business. So I now have responsibility for the Teams Rooms business across the Americas region, really defining and executing the strategy to grow those Teams meetings in the conference rooms specifically. I have to say, it's an incredible time to be in this space, Dan, because we've been on the cusp, it seems like, of video adoption for like 10 or 15 years, right? At Poly, every year, it's like, this is the year video is going to take off. All these kids are growing up with iPhones and, video conferencing. And so we literally were on that cusp for so many years, and it feels good to be in a place where people understand what we do for a living every day, and we are in this unique point in time where we get to help define what it looks like, right? I think this is a once in a lifetime opportunity that we have to help define what the future looks like. I think all of us on this call have enough experience to understand where it's been, but a lot of time ahead of us to help define where it's going. And so it's fun to be in this space right now. It's been an incredible ride so far. There's a lot of years ahead of us. The channels, this channel and this industry are my passion. I think the journey for all of us here is just beginning, but thank you. Thanks for inviting us to the call today, and thanks for your time.
It's our pleasure, sincerely, Commercial Integrator's pleasure. And I think what you said is very well taken. It has to be very exciting to be at the vanguard of a transformation like this that has gotten so much worldwide, society-wide purchase. To be right at the vanguard of this movement it's an enviable position to be in.
Yeah, 100%.
So now that we've kind of situated ourselves, met each of you, understood a little bit about your organizations, a little bit about your biographies, I would like to use that as a foundation for a more analytical back half of this podcast. And one question I've asked in most of these is, there has been some debate on AV Tweep's Twitter about, whether the 40 under 40 is a good thing by not talking about people who are over 40 or over 50. Are we excluding people? I'd like to know your opinion, and it doesn't have to be super, navel gazing just about the 40 under 40. It can be in general. Do you see value in honoring and celebrating young professionals who have made their mark and have earned the esteem and respect of their colleagues? And if so, why? Why is it important to spotlight young people if you believe that it is? And this is an open question for anyone and everyone who wants to participate.
I think from personal experience now, just, being included in this list of people is like the most exciting thing that's probably happened to me in a very long time, short of getting married. And so just like the excitement that I have and, the recognition, it has inspired me to continue to grow and push and, join different councils and get more engaged in the industry. And at the end of the day, all of us, I think on this panel have been doing this now for quite a while. Upwards of 5, 6, 7 years, and inevitably you get set in your ways. I think that's just the nature of, being a human, and bringing new people into the industry, younger people with fresh ideas that haven't been conditioned by the experiences that we all live through every day. Why wouldn't we want that? Let's think outside the box. Let's push the boundaries. We're never going to do that if we just stay stale. And, I guess that's the importance of recognizing younger people within the industry.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll echo Kate. Caitlin's spot on, but also, you mentioned, Dan, it's a transformational time in the industry, and it really is, right? It's time for that new way of thinking and understanding where we've been, but also having kind of that foresight to help define where we're going, highlighting those that, it is, like Caitlin mentioned, an incredible honor. When I heard that I won and I was going to be highlighted, I was so excited. And it kind of puts a spotlight on a few of tomorrow's leaders, right? So the organizations that are looking for that next talent, that to take the organizations kind of to that next level, it's exciting to possibly be on a list that they might be looking at.
Yeah, I agree. I also think one cool thing that it does is it really raises awareness for our industry, because it's, I think a lot of kids, going out of high school and into college, they kind of see their possible career choices as whatever's listed on their college available classes or whatever, and obviously there's not a dedicated class at most universities for being an AV consultant or something like that. And so breaking that out, I know when I was in high school, I mentioned how interested I was in AV, but I actually started, I went into a degree for information technology and networking because I didn't really know I could make a career out of this. I just thought AV was maybe home theaters and not really realizing what kind of world was out there. And then when I found it, it was just a perfect fit. And I think that anything that raises awareness for young people to share and see what kind of paths that they can go on to get into this industry is just such a great industry to be in. And I think that this highlight every year does that, and helps with that. And I think it's a great thing about it.
Yeah, it's interesting thinking about the demographics too. When I started in the industry, in 19 years old was my first trade show, which was CEDIA in Denver, Colorado. And I remember walking to the trade show and I looked around and I was like, wow, I am absolutely the youngest person in this entire building. Most of the folks that were representing in that building were probably 45 to 50 years of age, and even exceeding, a lot of business owners in their 70s. And that was really who I saw walk the showroom floor. And a lot has changed in 16 years. I mean, you guys know now, if you've been to trade shows, and I'm sure most of you have, there's a lot of folks that look like us, that are a lot younger, that are energetic, passionate, taking technology to the next level. And I think a wider adoption of that is needed in our industry. I think I always hear this problem trying to be solved is, how do we get new young talent into the AV industry? How do we get people excited about it just as much as we are? And as Britton said, there is no curriculum that surrounds it. I feel like there should be, and I know Avixa has been working to do some of those things over a period of time. But the 40 under 40 highlights all of our individual passions around this. And I think it's not necessarily why aren't we highlighting folks that have been in the industry for a long time, but what kind of impact can we make if we highlight those who are currently at the inception of their careers? And I think it's a wonderful thing that Commercial Integrator does, and really kind of spotlighting the effort of the young folks in the industry.
Well, on the topic of what you mentioned, Corey, and what you mentioned, Britton, the idea of trying to find a pathway for people into our industry, you hear so many stories about people saying, oh, I was a bartender and then I ended up in AV, or I was a roadie and then I ended up in AV. There was not a clear delineated path to end up where we are. As you said, Corey, there's some attempts by Avixa and other associations to find some curriculum, things of that nature. Some integrators and other organizations are reaching out to higher education institutions, trying to kind of build a pathway. What is your feeling about the problem with not having a more intentional path? And what are some of your suggestions as a thought leader about how to make a more intentional path? Once again, open for everyone and anyone.
Well, I know from our end, you hit it already. I mean, we really are just trying to reach out to local colleges and universities. I'm in the Atlanta area. We have internship programs with Georgia Tech. And so, we have a lot of interns come through on the engineering side. We've also seen a lot, as a lot of people come into our industry who are musicians, and they're, starting off plugging in stuff on the stage, and they're like, hey, wait a minute, I can make money doing this in addition to playing music. But really just letting people know that letting young people know that there's an avenue to have a very successful, very cool career. And that's the thing about EV, is I think the industry speaks for itself. It's very cool. Everybody likes it. It's not a mundane thing. It's a very exciting, engaging industry to be in. And so we just have to make sure that we're letting young people know that and giving them as much insight into it as possible. But as far as how to do that, I think, avenues like Commercial Integrator and social media. But then again, we're trying to heavily reach out to younger populations through internship programs and things like that with local colleges and universities.
Yeah, I think to your point, gentlemen, it's like being intentional about bringing the awareness to the next generation. Because, for me, when I was in college, I knew I was a business. I knew I was good at business, right? I wanted to do something globally around business, but I didn't know what, right? I didn't know what AV industry was until I stumbled across it, in 2010. But I think, it's incumbent upon us to kind of help bring that in as well. But Avixa, for example, is doing a lot of things around bringing in the next generation. Here in Dallas, there's a chapter of women that are looking to even bring not just the youth, but women into the AV industry coming out of college. Because there's not a whole lot out there that brings awareness to it. And I'm glad I fell into it, right? But, it's not something that's, to your point, Corey, that it's advertised as part of a curriculum that you can go learn if you don't know anything about it.
I was just gonna say, we're in the same boat. We, in the past, probably 2 years, have hired upwards of a dozen, new college graduates. And honestly, it's been such a gift, like I alluded to earlier, of having that fresh perspective of people coming straight out of college into our organization and, bringing best practices from what they learned at the university level to us, and just their fresh ideas overall. I think it's been just awesome to see them, grow and develop over the course of the past couple of years into, real AV specialists. Honestly, they truly understand what we do, I think, because they did grow up with technology that, even I didn't have when I was their age. So it's pretty special.
Yeah, this next generation is going to be incredibly savvy, right? Like my 9-year-old fixes my iPhone for me. That's sad, but it's true. And they come in with a lot of that skill that we didn't have right out of college.
I think all those are good points. And I just want to amplify something that you said, Monique, which is the importance of having, gender equity or moving in the direction of gender equity in our industry. I think the last research that I heard from Avixa was about 85-15, at least in terms of the Infocom show, of males to females. And although that's obviously improvement as compared to, 10, 15 years ago when I was going to my first Infocom shows, it's still not where we want to be. So to be intentional, not only about enticing the next generation to be part of our community, but also a more diverse segment of that next generation to be part of our industry. I think it is critical. And it's good to know there's so many, improvement-minded organizations and people trying to make that happen. So to kind of wrap up the pod, I just did want to ask you, obviously, people like you who are being recognized by your peers, your colleagues, maybe even your competitors, because you can't nominate yourself for this. People nominate you for this. You're being recognized as leaders. So think about your organizations and other organizations. How are they going to hang on to people like you? What kind of an environment can they create? What kind of benefits can they offer? What kind of company culture can they embody that's going to make people like you, who they don't want to lose, stick around?
I can say it's something we're consistently working on every single day. We just actually had a meeting today to review our benefits package. We send out pulse surveys weekly. We do a company-wide meeting once a month just to review the latest happenings so people are in the loop. And I think overall, we've just had a huge focus in the past, couple of years. So actually during COVID, even just providing our team exposure to the industry, to different, classes that they can take, to doing site surveys, people that maybe normally wouldn't be on site during an install, getting them to an install so they can actually see it happening and like really dig in and understand why it is that we do what they do, even though that might not be part of their daily job. That education for us, I think, has been crucial to really getting people more engaged in our organization and making sure that they understand what our clients are looking to achieve, which is, ultimately our customers' happiness is crucial to our success as a company. So for us, exposure has been huge.
Yeah, I would add, Microsoft does these work trend index reports every year. And we pulled 31,000 people from 31 different countries recently, just to kind of figure out what is the next generation of work and what the workforce looks like. And we found that there's kind of a new worth it equation is what we call it, but it's like what people are willing to give up in exchange for their careers. And I think that, having seen a lifetime of digital transformation, literally in just the last 2 years, accelerated by this pandemic, that it's really made a lasting imprint on the way we work. And more than ever, it's important that we're prioritizing the employee and their well-being and the flexibility to really give them their agency to do their best work. And I think that organizations that put people first are going to really come out ahead.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think if there's one thing I hope that any listener has gotten out of this podcast is that it should be obvious that we're all very passionate about what we do, and people who are passionate about their work, it's not just a 9-to-5 to them. It's not just about a paycheck. They want to know that they're making a difference, especially in, I think, our generation and younger. I think people want to know they're doing something good and they're working for an organization that does good. And I think that, having insight into just what their company values are wherever they're employed, and making sure that there's something that they're engaged in their community and that they are focused on, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and they treat their people with respect and that they treat them well. I think that that's as important to keeping and retaining passionate talent as anything.
I'd say I'm lucky enough to be a part of an organization that fosters an environment, a lot of challenge, but a lot of reward at the same time. And when I say reward, I don't necessarily mean monetarily. There's a lot of reward factors that go into people's everyday responsibilities and fulfillment in their jobs. I think it is a responsibility of us as leaders, and if we're in a management or leadership role at our organizations, is to really show the pathways and crossroads for people's careers. Like, where can this thing go, even at the inception of your career? And I think about even the diversity of the positions within AV. You can work in the field as a technician. You can work in the office as a sales engineer. There's a myriad of things that you can do within an integrator, an integration environment, distribution environment. There's a lot of aspects to our industry that open up certain pathways for people. And it's our job to make sure that we are creating and illuminating those pathways for the next generation of people that are coming in, folks in college. It's weird. I felt like not that long ago, that was me. And I'm sure you guys felt that way. It's like, oh, we were the youngins in the industry. And now we got like floods of college kids coming in. I'm like, oh no, I'm the old guy now. I was like, oh boy, things have changed quite dramatically over the course of my career. But it is our responsibility, as someone did before us, to usher them along those pathways, to show them this is what's available to you, and this is what career trajectory looks like. No matter how you want to shape that, here's what's available, and here's how we can help you develop and get and climb a corporate ladder if that's what you want to do, or if you want to be the best technician out in the field sales engineer. Here's what we can create for you. Here's what's been created, and here's how we're going to evolve as a business.
Well, I think that's a great note to close on. I'm really, really appreciative to you, Caitlin, Britton, Corey, and Monique, for sharing your insights, sharing your wisdom with our audience. I know that, I came into the AV industry in kind of a backhanded way as well, fell into it as far as technology journalism goes. I know if I were in high school or in college, I were reading a publication like Commercial Integrator, and I saw people like you, who I could say, maybe I could emulate them, maybe I could follow in the path that they have set, I may have been more intentional about finding my way into this industry. And that's really what we're going for. That's what we're hoping for, to hold people like you up as exemplars of people who can succeed. You're not that far removed from college years. Maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 15, but you've gone beyond expectations. You've risen to a level of prominence. And I think that is a beacon of sorts to people who are looking at our industry. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So grateful to have been joined today by Caitlin Kazanowski, who is Director of Sales with PTG, Corey Allen, who is Director of Services with Exertis Almo, Monique Rizai, who is Director of America's Channels, Teams Rooms, Microsoft, and Britton Gates, who is Associate Partner and Audiovisual Consultant, Newcomb and Boyd. Once again, thank you for being on the AV Plus podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Please check back on commercialintegrator.com each and every Friday for a new edition of the AV Plus podcast, including our continuing series celebrating the 40 Influencers Under 40 class of 2022, which will continue in the weeks ahead until we include just about every one of our honorees. Once again, thank you for tuning in to AV Plus.